Hello everybody out there in Storyland and Glastonbury Thorn Primary School. How you all doing? Well, I see you come back for some more of the story. And it's the last part of the story, the last final chapter. So, just to recap, the ice dragon's going round eating people. They tried to beat it in a battle and they lost. Tashin, the Whale of Wisdom, has told King Cool the only way to kill it is if it eats his only daughter. It will then fall into a deep sleep and they can cook it and have it for breakfast. It wasn't very happy about that, but both he and his daughter have agreed. Here we go. All night long, King Cool sat alone in the great hall, hoping against hope that someone, somewhere, would arrive to save his only daughter. A hero, a wise witch, anyone, but no one came. The next day, before the sun rose, Princess Icicle got dressed in her most royal dresses, placed her tiara upon her head, and, with a sad and solemn face, mounted her polar bear. Then she and her father, followed by what was left of our once mighty army, slowly rode out of the castle, disappearing into the morning mist as they silently headed west, along the road that led to the cliffs of Maron, where the dragon would come to shore every morning. So it would. Oh yes, yes, yes. The road was lined with snow elves from all the clans. They stood there in silence, their heads bowed, unable to meet the princess's eyes. The king looked at them, each and every one of them, his eyes pleading for a hero. But no one moved, no hero came forward, and no one met his gaze. As they reached the top of the cliffs, the princess saw that the beach below was covered in wood that had been soaked in cod liver oil, ready to be set ablaze once the dragon fell asleep. She turned to her father and kissed him on his long blue nose. He opened his mouth to say something, to tell her how much he loved her, but she silenced him with a finger against his lips. "No, father," she said quietly. "No words of farewell lest I cry. It's better for all that I am seen to do this with dignity, as befits a princess of the clans of the Snow Elves." She then climbed off her polar bear and walked slowly down the long, winding path that reached down to the beach. And as she walked towards her fate, so she walked tall and proud, like a princess should. And she sang an old song, a song about Zero the hero and his bravery as he faced the ice dragon of old. All too soon she reached the beach and stood now in silence, her back against a tall grey standing stone that rose up from the beach, and she looked out at the sea with sad eyes. Behind her, on top of the cliffs, silently stood her father weeping, and the army. Each soldier had his bow with arrows soaked in cod liver oil, and a lantern on which to light his arrows. So the once Widowmaker, the dragon, had devoured the princess and fallen asleep, they might set light to the oil-soaked wood below. Maybe he won't come, she thought. Maybe some brave hero has already killed him. But she knew in her heart that these hopes were false, for already, far out to sea, she could see it, the dragon Widowmaker. It had grown since she last fought it, and now it was humongously huge. And as it swam closer, so it looked bigger and bigger and bigger. Her heart quickened and fear took hold of her, but still she stood there, bravely refusing to move. It was closer now, looking directly at her, as she shut her eyes, awaiting her fate. The next few seconds seemed to last for ages, and then she heard a voice, her father's voice, saying, "What's that? Coming round the cliffs. It's a boat. A hero's coming. A hero's coming to save my daughter. Hurrah!" At first, the princess thought her long pointy ears were playing tricks on her, but then she heard a cheer that got louder as the army joined in. She opened her eyes to see who this hero was, as she saw a small boat sailing straight towards the dragon. And in the boat she saw none other than Blizz. "Oh no," she thought, "not you, not my dear sweet clown." Of all the snow elves she'd ever met, he was the one she least wanted to die for her. He was the only one to ever make her feel like a normal elf, so he was. The only one to remind her what it's like to laugh like a little girl. Blizz was sailing straight for the dragon, the gigantic dragon, and as he sailed towards it, so he set a small lamp on the front of the boat and took up a longbow and some arrows. He lit the arrows one by one from the lamp and he fired them, pa-ding, pa-ding, pa-ding. He fired them at the ice dragon Widowmaker. But Blizz was no archer, and his shots went wide, missing the dragon completely, which was difficult to do because he was so big, I do be telling you that. Those shots that got close to the dragon, he just breathed upon with his cold breath, freezing them in the air. Blizz had one arrow left now and decided to wait till he was close, very, very close. But Widowmaker had other ideas. The dragon put his head low into the sea and opened his ginormous mouth. Suddenly, the sea was rushing into the dragon's mouth, pulling the small boat with it. With a defiant scream of anger, Blizz and his small boat were swallowed whole by the dragon. Then Widowmaker the dragon swam on towards the princess. Her heart had never felt so sad before, not because she was going to die, but because the one elf she hoped to save, the one elf she'd ever loved, had died trying to save her. All hope and fear had left her now, and she stood tall, awaiting her fate. As the dragon swallowed the boat, Blizz's last words were, "Oops." Then he was gone, sailing over the dragon's tongue and down its long, dark throat. He heard his heartbeat getting louder and louder as he sailed slowly towards its stomach. Then it got quieter and quieter as he passed it by. Then, by the light of the lantern, he saw the dragon's liver in the distance. And that's when he had an idea. As the small boat sailed close to the dragon's liver, Blizz picked up the boat's anchor, swung it round his head with all his might, and threw it as hard as he could, sticking it into the dragon's liver. Holding the boat in place as it rocked gently next to Widowmaker's liver. Then he got his last arrow and used the head of it to dig a little hole in the dragon's liver, so he did. Once he'd made the small hole, and compared to the size of the dragon, it was small, he waited till it filled up with dragon liver oil, so it did. Then he took his lantern and placed it in the hole and gently blew upon the flame until it caught the dragon liver oil alight. Now Widowmaker was still a mile or so out to sea, but so huge was he now that he was walking on the seabed with his stomach above the waves, moving closer, ever closer towards the princess. Then, suddenly, he stopped walking and stood quite still. "Come on!" the princess shouted. "What are you waiting for? Come and eat me, you beast!" But the dragon didn't move. Instead, it just stood there with what looked like steam coming out of its ears. Widowmaker had a hot feeling inside. A hot feeling that he really did not like. No, he didn't. Then he opened his mouth and gave a long, loud burp. As he burped, so the wind rushed up from his stomach and past his liver. So strong was the force of the burp and the wind that it broke the rope tying to the boat to the anchor and sent the boat, with Blizz holding onto the mast for dear life, sailing back up the dragon's throat, over his tongue, and as Blizz looked back and saw that the liver was burning well and truly now, so the burp sent the boat sailing back out of the dragon's mouth, so it did. Oh, yes, 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 yes. The boat flew high into the air. Then it came down, splash, and hit the water, speeding at full speed towards the beach. The boat hit the beach and suddenly stopped, and Blizz, he didn't suddenly stop. He went flying forward through the air, landed on the ground, skidding and coming to a halt. You guessed it, right at the feet of a somewhat startled Princess Ice Acorn. "Blizz," said the princess in surprise, "you're alive!" Blizz picked himself up and ran his hands all over himself before answering in an even more surprised voice, "Yes, I is, isn't I? "Quick," said the princess. Her relief at his being alive was now replaced by concern that he may not stay that way for long. "Quick, Run! Run up the cliffs before the dragon gets you! Now it was Blizz's turn to smile. Oh, I don't think we need worry about him, he said, looking over his shoulder at the dragon. The princess followed his gaze and saw the smoke was coming out of his ears and nose, and his stomach seemed to be growing bigger and bigger and bigger, like an overstretched balloon, so it did. In fact, it got so big that it looked like it was going to bang! Suddenly, the dragon exploded into 1,000 burning bits. Bits of dragon went flying everywhere and cascading down. Blizz, ever the gentleman, stood in front of the princess and used his hands to protect her nose in case any bits of dragon hit it, or worse still, got stuck up it. The princess stood there, looking deep into Blizz's eyes, as all around them landed smoking, burning bits of dragon, so it did. Then, very gently and carefully, she reached up with her hands, pulled his head forward, and gently kissed him on his long, pointy nose. "My hero," she said, as his nose went redder than his ears, and she gave him that smile, the one that always made him confuddled and muddled. Only this time, Blizz didn't get confuddled or muddled. Instead, he just stroked a long pointy nose and said the words he'd wanted to say ever since he first saw her. "I loves you, princess," he said, looking deep into her eyes. They stood there staring at each other, and would be standing there still if it hadn't been for the army. For seeing the dragon explode into 1,000 bits and realising that the princess was safe, they'd come running down the pathway laughing and cheering. They picked up the princess and Blizz and placed them on their shoulders, singing with joy. Then slowly the crowd went silent as King Cool approached them. For a few seconds the king said nothing. He just looked at Blizz. Then he slowly took off his crown and offered it to Blizz. "Mr. Blizzard," he said in a solemn voice, "I said I'd give my crown to whoever saved my daughter, and I'm an honest elf who keeps his word. Here, King Ard, take my crown and rule wisely." Blizz looked scared, really scared, and quickly put his hands behind his back and started walking backwards. "Me?" he said in a panicking voice. "A king? Oh no, your majestiness, not me. You just be keeping that crown and putting it straight back on your royal head, you do. I don't be knowing the first thing about kinging, I don't. But," he said as a smile spread across his face, "if he really wants to be thanking me, then there is something else that I'd prefer much more than a kingship, your majestiness-ship." "Name it, and if it's within my power, I shall grant it," said the king. "Well," said Blizz, looking at Princess Cool, "what I'd really be liking, even more than your crown and kingshipiness, is your daughter's hand in marriage." For a few moments, King Cool said nothing. Then, With a voice blazing with anger, he shouted, "My daughter's hand in marriage? Never!" For a moment, no one moved. No one even dared breathe. Even the north wind stood still in shock. Blizz felt heartbroken, and Princess Cool was just about to lose her temper and be very uncool when she saw a smile spread across the king's face, and he started laughing. "You can't have my daughter's hand in marriage. It's all of her or nothing." I've waited ever since she was born to say that to someone. For a moment, no one moved. And then, when they all realised that he was joking, everyone just burst into laughter. And Princess Cool, she put her hand in Blizz's and looked into his eyes. "Oh yes, father," she said. "I found the one I love, and nothing could ever stop me from marrying him. Not snow, nor sleet, not even wild seals. Blizz is my hero, just like the ones in tales of old." The army cheered and started to carry the two of them up the path to the polar bears. And as they went, so one of them started singing. It was the same song as Princess Ice had sang on her way down the cliffs, the one about Zero the hero. But this time, they changed the words so that it was about none other than Blizz the hero. Others joined in, and soon the whole army was singing about Blizz the hero, leaving King Cool standing alone on the beach, surrounded by bits of smouldering dragon. And that's when he saw it. Lying amongst, where am I? Lying amongst the dragon bits, gleaming ice white against the blackened dragon flesh, was one of the dragon's teeth. An idea occurred to the king, and he carefully picked it up, wrapped it in a piece of dragon skin, and then hurried up the path to join the army. Well, suffice to say, they did get married, and they lived happily ever after. And the best thing of all about it for Blizz was he never, ever, ever had any more adventures. Well, except for the time when they went on a quest to rescue the Great Heartstone and save Christmas, but got captured by the Sky Pirates but that's another tale for another day. Goodbye. I honestly hoped whoever managed to persevere and listen to all 4 chapters enjoyed it. I wrote that story for my kids years ago. Never thought I'd share it with anyone, so these really are strange, interesting times. And on the subject of strange, interesting times, as a performer, I now have to wait until June until I get any money. It's okay, I've still got a few kids left to eat to see me through. But also, if you like the story and if you can afford it, and only if you can afford it, then here is my PayPal address. It says devilstickpete@hotmail.com. A quid or two for a story in a busker's hat would not go amiss. In the meantime, Here is a public information broadcast from your government. Stay safe. Stay sane. Stay at home. Bye-bye.